Third Space Learning is the largest provider of online teaching in the UK, having just delivered their millionth hour of learning. Tom, how's the journey been?
Made every mistake in the book, including all of the mistakes they tell you. They tell you at the beginning, try and avoid making this mistake. Is just over £12 million in investment. We will actually be profitable this year, which is a massive relief. When you're building a business and you're loss making, so our first 7 years we were loss making, and you're backed by VCs, it's great if things are going well, but you're highly geared into success, because the second that starts to turn, you often have an investor base and a cost base that clearly is not set up for revenue flatlining. I think if I were to kind of summarize kind of how the business has evolved, the first 4 or 5 years, we saw really good revenue growth every year, margin expansion every year. But I think in some ways we didn't appreciate, we were too short term in our thinking, and we didn't put in place some of the foundations that were, in hindsight, quite clearly needed to maintain and accelerate that growth. And I think there is very good advice about build an MVP, stay lean, all the rest of it, which I would completely agree with. But I think there's a risk that when you do that and it succeeds, you then start scaling an MVP, and it gets to a point where everything is wobbling all over the business. But from the outside, it's like, well, your revenue's growing, like, great, keep going. And you're under pressure to keep delivering those results, so you just keep pushing on. And we did that, and I think we reached a point in 2017-18 where we tried to kind of push our foot on the accelerator just as budgets in our core markets started to tighten up, and that produced a couple of pretty tough years where we were spending too much, we were not spending on the right things, and revenue was flatlining. So 2018 and 19 were tough years, and certainly for me, because ultimately it was my responsibility for both for decisions made and also decisions not made. That was a period of where I learned a lot, and thankfully, and largely it's thanks to the team that kind of held tight during that period, and subsequent to that period, actually more importantly, we're in a great place now. We're profitable, revenue will more than double this year. Like, the next 3 years, the outlook is really, really positive. Launched in the States. So hard lessons, but valuable lessons.
In this episode, we've heard from the veterans of the software business. The likes of Uber have set the bar really high, and software companies are doing their best to follow suit. In this episode, we've heard from the veterans of the software business. The likes of Uber have set the bar really high, and software companies are doing their very best to follow suit.